On January 22, 1973, the Supreme Court would make a landmark decision that would completely change the trajectory of women's reproductive rights. Millions of women would finally attain the right to a safe, legal abortion, signaling the beginning of a new reproductive era. Here, we delve into the transformative journey leading to Roe v. Wade, which became the turning point that redefined women's reproductive and economic rights.
At the nation's founding, abortion was generally permitted by all states. However, by the mid-1800s, physicians increasingly sought to replace lay midwives, who were the main providers of abortions. When the American Medical Association, the AMA, was founded in 1847, outlawing abortion became one of its top priorities. And in 1857, led by a respected health scholar, Dr. Horatio Stover, the AMA led the infamous Physicians' Crusade against abortion, lobbying state legislators to shut down unregulated abortion providers. On August 26, 1871, 20-year-old Alice Bowlesby's body was discovered in a baggage trunk in New York, shocking the entire nation. She had died from an abortion surgery performed by a local physician, prompting state legislators to outlaw abortion. 2 years later, Congress would pass the Comstock Act, criminalizing the distribution of abortion and birth control information by mail. And by 1910, every state had enacted laws criminalizing abortion. Women now risked arrest and invasive examinations, facing penalties even for seeking information on abortion. Under the AMA, hospitals established abortion boards composed of male physicians. They held the exclusive right to grant abortions, which were rarely given. Desperate women found themselves pleading insanity or suicidal inclinations to obtain an abortion. Outlawing abortion, however, only sent the practice underground, and it is estimated that up to 1.2 million illegal abortions were performed every year in back alley clinics. Notorious for their unsafe practices, many unskilled practitioners lacked sterilized equipment, antibiotics, and anesthesia. Countless back alley clinics would be raided by law enforcement, thousands arrested every year. As a result, illegal abortion accounted for nearly 1/5 of all maternal deaths. And from 1900 to 1965, 14,000 women every year would die from illegal abortions. Hundreds of thousands more would suffer from reproductive organ damage and infertility.
However, as America faced a series of pivotal social events, public attitudes towards abortion began to change. One such event was the thalidomide tragedy of 1962, where a morning sickness drug led to the birth of thousands of deformed infants. The thalidomide tragedy was brought to the nation's attention when Sherry Finkbein, a famous host of the children's TV show, was found to also have taken the drug. When she couldn't obtain an abortion locally, millions sympathized with her decision to obtain an abortion in Sweden. A Gallup poll the same year revealed that 52% of Americans supported her decision, marking a major shift in public opinion towards abortion. Medical professionals also began to reevaluate their stance. By the 1960s, the AMA's stance softened as illegal abortions became one of the leading causes of maternal mortality. And when the FDA approved the first oral contraceptive pill in 1960, it further challenged the medical community to reconsider its position on abortion. And 2 years after the thalidomide tragedy, in 1964, the medical community was shaken to its roots by the rubella epidemic. With over 12 million Americans infected, 20,000 babies were born with congenital rubella syndrome, reinforcing the public's growing support for legalizing abortion. And in 1966, the trial of the San Francisco Nine brought the issue of abortion into sharp focus. When 9 physicians were prosecuted for performing abortions on women with rubella, it led to an unprecedented rallying of the medical community. More than 200 physicians, including 128 deans of medical schools, submitted an amicus brief to support the physicians. Pressured by mounting public support, charges were eventually dropped. The trial had captured the nation's attention and catalyzed significant legislative change. In 1967, California responded by permitting hospitals to approve abortion requests. In addition, from 1969 to 1973, an underground abortion clinic in Chicago called the Jiyun Collective would perform nearly 12,000 abortions. And in 1972, 7 members of the Jiyun Collective were arrested for illegal abortion procedures. These charges, too, were later dropped in light of the evolving public attitude. Therefore, the San Francisco 9 trial, coupled with these major events, were instrumental in reshaping America's perspective towards abortion and setting the stage for the pivotal change in the legal landscape.
And in 1969, a case emerged in Texas centering on a pregnant woman, Norma McCorvey. Confronting the challenge of an unplanned pregnancy, McCorvey was barred under Texas law from receiving an abortion.
We must link arm in arm to protect and uphold the right to safe and legal abortion.
Seeking to challenge the Texas law, McCorvey sought the representation of lawyer Sarah Weddington. Under the alias Jane Roe in 1970, they filed a lawsuit against District Attorney Henry Wade, which eventually reached the U.S. Supreme Court. Representing McCorvey, Weddington argued that the choice to continue or terminate a pregnancy should lie with the woman herself, free from the undue state interference. 3 years prior to the eventual decision, President Nixon would appoint Justice Harry Blackmun to the U.S. Supreme Court. And on January 22, 1973, Justice Blackmun would go on to write the majority opinion finding the Texas statute unconstitutional. The Supreme Court held that the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guaranteed a woman's fundamental right to privacy, which included the right to exercise abortion in the first and second trimester. No longer could individual states criminalize abortion. This landmark decision became the historical turning point that ushered the U.S. into a new era of women's reproductive and civil and economic rights.
Immediately after the ruling, hospitals swiftly incorporated abortion services into their healthcare system and began training doctors in abortion procedures. As a result, the ruling enabled access to abortion in a safe, medical environment, leading to a dramatic decrease in maternal deaths. Riding the momentum, the Family Planning Services and Population Research Act was subsequently amended to expand funding for procedures including abortion. Today, less than 0.3% of abortions result in any serious complications, underscoring the health benefit of accessing legal abortion. Furthermore, Roe v. Wade positively helped expand women's educational opportunities. Before Roe, many women found their educational pursuits cut short due to unplanned pregnancies. However, legal abortion led to a notable decline in the incidence of teen motherhood and early marriages. Post-Roe, there was a discernible uptick in the number of women attaining higher education. These changes facilitated passing of the Women's Educational Equity Act of 1974, which further expanded women's educational opportunities. 3 years after Roe v. Wade, enrollment in higher education surged to over 30%, and by the early 1990s, this figure had risen to over 40%. Higher education in turn opened a new era of women's participation in the workforce. Women could now avoid unwanted pregnancies, enabling them to pursue and maintain employment more consistently. From 1970 to 2020, the number of women in the workforce with bachelor's degrees quadrupled. In addition, women's labor force participation rate increased 30%. In addition, Roe v. Wade had a catalytic effect on the second wave feminist movement, which sought to expand women's reproductive rights in the workplace. In 1966, feminist Betty Friedan founded the National Organization for Women (NOW), which was instrumental in advocating for the rights to an abortion. And in 1978, their advocacy for women's workplace rights culminated in the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, which protected pregnant employees from discrimination and their rights to maternity leave, further cementing women's economic rights. Consequently, Roe v. Wade emerged as a crucial turning point, granting women greater autonomy over their reproductive decisions and catalyzing the progression of broader social and economic rights.
There's no question that Roe v. Wade was a response to what was happening in the world, and that there had been tremendous efforts made by organizations like NOW and like Jane's Collective to secure abortion rights, that some states had passed laws and the will of the United States people had become in favor of supporting access to abortion.
Yet, 50 years later, in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, altering the reproductive landscape. While the full impact remains to be seen, Roe v. Wade's historical role in establishing women's reproductive rights is undeniable. The struggle for these rights is expected to persist, reflecting the ever-evolving nature of women's reproductive rights.